Good afternoon, good evening to some, and good morning to others. Thank you for joining us for this fabulous webinar that we have going on here for the next hour. Some great insights into everything about Egypt. Our title being Between Global Ambition and Local Reality. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here with us. I believe we've got close to 300 people registered for this event. And by all means, do ask questions in the chat room as we go along. But on behalf of Bench, the organizers of the FHS portfolio, it is an absolute pleasure to have you with us. We're excited. We're very excited about Egypt and our forthcoming event in November from the 10th to the 11th at the Sofitel downtown in Cairo for FHS Egypt. So why does Bench love Egypt? Well, it's because it is at a defining moment with 185 hotels in Egypt and 45,984 to be exact rooms in the pipeline. It's a 35% increase in a single year and 17 billion in tourism revenue recorded in 2025. The scale of the opportunity here is unlike anywhere else in Africa, and certainly a global hotspot for tourism development. As highlighted in Trevor Ward's Hotel Chain Development Pipelines in Africa 2026 report, Egypt continues to lead the continent in branded hotel development, a position it has held consistently for several years. And tourism demand continues to grow strongly with the goal of 30 million tourists annually by 2030 as part of Vision 2030. And how does it get there? Well, no doubt through these major destination mega projects, which are reshaping the Egyptian landscape, will certainly help to achieve these numbers. Attracting international investors, developers, operators, and strategic partners to turn ambition into real projects is essential to the delivery of Vision 2030. And the investor question remains on execution, FX convertibility, repatriation, construction inflation, financing costs, regularity, clarity, and delivery risk continuing to shape underwriting decisions. Enormous promise where success depends on understanding the practical realities behind the headlines. And that's what our webinar is all about. We will begin with a market overview from HVS, looking at investment activities, transactions, pipeline growth, and where the opportunities are emerging. And then we will follow with my wonderful panel. So to help me set the scene for today's discussion, I'm delighted to welcome Alain Debare, Head of Investments and Asset Management at HVS for Middle East and Africa. Alain brings extensive experience across hospitality investment, asset management, and strategic advisory, working with investors, owners, and operators across the region. In a market that continues to evolve at pace, his insight into capital flows, investor sentiment, emerging opportunities makes him ideally placed to walk us through the current investment landscape and what lies ahead for the sector. Please join me in welcoming Alain Debare. Alain, great to see you and nice to have you on this session. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jonathan, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar. The objective today is not only to say that Egypt is performing well, we all know that, or that tourism is growing. I think, we all recognize that Egypt is clearly on the radar of all the investors today. We will explore what this means from investment perspective, and let's maybe start with the big picture. Why Egypt is now on the global hospitality investment map? It's clearly supported by a lot of government ambition, tourism growth, infrastructure investments, and a growing hotel pipeline. Here, we share some of the Vision 2030 targets, including GDP growth, a controlled inflation, a reduction of unemployment, and as you can see, a target of $30 billion in FDI. So tourism is clearly part of a broader national agenda in Egypt. The tourism indicators are also positive. You've got a tourism GDP of 33.8 billion in 2025, with international visitor spend of 16.7 billion and domestic visitor spend at 10 billion. So the demand story is very clear, and for investors, the question is really to understand how this growth can translate into a scalable, branded, and investable hospitality opportunity. This slide brings together demand, supply, and capital. Egypt reached 19 million tourists in 2025, and we're aiming at 30 million tourists by 2030. In terms of supply, we have 180,000 keys and a pipeline of 35,000 keys, which should bring the total future supply to 217,000. In terms of capital, we are also now seeing major investment activity with large-scale destination development, infrastructure, and mixed-use developments. So for us, it's not just a tourism recovery story, it's really a hotel investment story. In this slide, we're starting to delve into Egypt. It shows that the demand is strong, and we will see later on that it's strong, but it's not uniform. At national level, we have rates and volume recovery. So we have an occupancy reaching 70% in 2025, notably with an ADR moving from $80 to $132 in 2025, and the RevPAR moving from $53 to $92. But the important part is really the market split. So Cairo is clearly the strongest ADR. Red Sea and Sharm el-Sheikh show the strongest occupancy. So it's a volume story there. We've got lots of development on the North Coast, which is strategic and yet very seasonal. And comparatively, Alexandria remains under-optimized. So this is about saying that Egypt is not one market. Each sub-market is important, and each sub-market has its investment rationale, a different risk profile, and a different asset strategy is required in each market. In this slide, whilst performance is improving, the next issue is going to be supply. This shows that Egypt does need more rooms, but it needs the right type of rooms. As we see, there's a large hotel base, but the significant part of the supply remains independent and unbranded, very inconsistent. Here we can see 99,000 unbranded keys versus only 82,000 branded, and 441 unbranded hotels for 244 branded hotels. We have 54% of the supply which is independent, and only 40% of the market is under HMA. So this also shows the largest operators. The largest operators are Trafco, Accor, Pic Albatros, and H World. So the opportunity is not just about adding hotels and hotel rooms. The opportunity is really to upgrading, but there's also a great opportunity to conversion, branding, and repositioning, and professionally asset managing the hotel stock. For investors, Egypt does a lot, but they will also discover fragmented ownership and that outdated stock. So this is really where we come in with FHS, and where adopting the right brand strategy and active asset management can really make a difference in Egypt. The next question is who is moving and who is shaping the next wave of development. This slide shows Egypt is increasingly being looked as a regional investment platform. We can see this through the scale of the projects. So we have, the new administrative capital, the recently opened GEM, and we'll hear a bit later on from Majed, who's just developing there, just in front of the Grand Egyptian Museum. We've got New Alain, we have Ras Al Khaimah, and we have Qatari Diaz project in Alain Room. So there are many large-scale projects and many investment opportunities out there. These are all projects that will drive hospitality, real estate, branded residences, infrastructure, but also culture and lifestyle. In Egypt, these are the big actors at the moment, and you can see a lot of international capital coming through. You've got Qatari Diar, we have Adnic in Abu Dhabi. In Egypt, we have Trafco and Misr, and we also have joint ventures with the likes of TMG, Icon. Now, the opportunity is large, but it is important, and we'll see that in the following slide, that execution is complex. There are local market realities. There's currency exposure and operating challenges. So for investors, the opportunity is not just to deploy capital, it is to create institutional, branded, and professionally managed hotel portfolios. That brings us to the evaluation outlook. So this slide is really a reality check. Egypt is attracting investors' attention, but the transaction activity remains selective. Cairo is relatively low value compared to other markets, reflecting opportunities and risk at the same time. The list of notable transactions also shows there are real quality assets in the market, and there is market for the right assets. You can see this with with recent transactions. We Marriott Mina House, the Marriott Cairo, the Cairo Marriott, or the Steinberger Cairo. So the conclusion is not that Egypt lacks opportunities. The conclusion is that opportunities are and will continue to be selective. And the value creation will depend on execution, operational expertise, and the ability to bridge global capital with local market realities. On this final slide, we are summarizing what we see the most relevant investment opportunities. The first opportunity we see is a repositioning and hotel conversion opportunity. The second opportunity is lifestyle and boutique hospitality. The third is upgrading resorts and certain renewals in destination where the stock is getting older. And the fourth is the new developments and the large mixed-use developments. So our message is quite simple. Egypt is a growth market, but it's not a simple market. The opportunity is real, but it will reward investors who understand the local market dynamics, operating complexity, brand strategy, and are able to deploy the right active asset management. I will now pass on back to Jonathan, who will introduce our distinguished panel. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Alain. Thank you for that interesting presentation. As you say, lots of opportunities in Egypt now, but we need to understand the dynamics of it. So I'm delighted to introduce my panel. First, I welcome back Her Excellency Dr. Ghada Shalaby, a highly respected leader and longtime friend of the FHS community, who some of you will remember you were with us back, I think it was in 2023, wasn't it, Dr. Ghada?
Correct.
For
Correct.
FHS in Abu Dhabi. So
in Abu Dhabi. And
fantastic.
Since then, we've been working on getting FHS to Egypt, and congratulations on this move.
Well, no, we're super excited about that. But you served as Vice Minister of Tourism and Antiquities for Egypt when you played a pivotal role in shaping Egyptians' tourism strategy, advancing digital transformation, and strengthening the country's global competitiveness as a leading travel destination. Today, you continue to advise both the public and private sectors on projects focusing on elevating tourism offerings. So that's going to be interesting to hear what you say about that on this session today. Driving innovation and supporting sustainable growth across the industry. You're also leading important initiatives around the reclassification of tourism offerings, as well as training and development programs, including international exchange partnerships with Europe. Since 2024, you've served as Executive Director of the Egyptian Hotel Establishments Chamber and working closely with industry leaders to enhance hospitality standards and support the continued evolution of Egypt's tourism sector. So, Dr. Ghada, thank you for joining us on this session. I'm also delighted to welcome the Managing Director for Misr, Abu Dhabi for real estate investments, otherwise known as MAD. Magid Salah. Magid, thank you for joining us today on this session.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's my pleasure to be joining this panel and to welcome FHS to Egypt.
No, that's great. And just a little bit on MAD, as it's called. I love the acronym. Fantastic. It's the investment arm of the bank, Misr MAD, and you serve as which serves as a strategic gateway linking regional capital to Egypt's real estate sectors, including hospitality, office, clinic, and residential properties. So a highly experienced professional in our industry on the Egyptian hospitality markets. It's an honor to have you with us here today.
It's my pleasure also, John. Thank you.
And then finally, we have, and it's a great pleasure to introduce our third panelist, someone I'm proud to call a dear friend and one of the most respected voices in our industry, the president of HVS Middle East, Africa, and South Asia, Hala Choufany. Hala is president, has advised on more than 5,000 hospitality mixed-use projects across the world over the past two decades. Beyond her advisory work, Hala is an author, a regular speaker of ours, a passionate advocate for leadership and the advancement of women in business. And she serves on several prominent boards, including the Harvard Business School Club of the GCC. So what makes Hala especially admired is not only her success at HVS, but also her warmth, insight, and generosity as a person and mentor in our industry. Hala, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. And yes, we are friends, and I'm very excited that we are landing in Egypt.
Finally, I think a lot of it's down to you too, Hala, pushing us and saying, come on, we've got to do it. We've got to do it.
So much is happening, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, welcome to all of you, and delighted to have you. You've got, there's a great panel here for the delegates participating. So any questions you've got, please do add your questions. We're monitoring those. But if we could kick off with sort of the overall situation at the moment, if you look at the regional context, since the outbreak of the war in the Middle East, how has Egypt been impacted, both from a tourism demand perspective in terms of and also in terms of investor sentiment and capital deployment? Dr. Ghada, maybe I could kick off with you first. We saw those numbers on the slides. Occupancy is down slightly, but it's not a disaster by any means. What's the sentiment? What's the situation at the moment?
Well, Jonathan, let me tell you, and to start with, it's not the first crisis that Egypt would go through. Over the past decades, Egypt has gone through many crises and many issues, either internationally, globally, or even within the region, and successfully was able to go through it, become as well, and coming out of it stronger, even stronger than how it was before. Going from Arab Spring to COVID-19 to the crisis between Russia and Ukraine, the most two predominant markets to Egypt tourism. Despite of that, we were able to go through it and come really stronger. What was the key thing and the learning point that we've learned is how we are able to diversify our offerings and also our markets. And for that, it became a more stronger way for us to develop either the hospitality sector or even the tourist journey that we were offering. And this is a major thing, that Egypt is not relying on one sector or certain capabilities, but we were able to develop many aspects that made us a lot stronger. Yes, the last crisis has affected aviation, especially coming from the Gulf region into Egypt, where flights were stopped completely. But it was not as bad as it was during COVID-19, where we had to, empty the whole country from each and every traveler in the country, and later on we came stronger. There are a lot of efforts and a lot of combined efforts between the government and the private sector trying to revive this market and trying to revive the aviation. So the problem was not in the market offering, it was because of the consequent aviation issues coming into the country. If you follow the news, the Ministry of Tourism announced incentive programs to enhance and to offset the risks that flights have incurred due to the increasing fuel prices. And this is one of the initiatives that we've done before and we're doing now to enhance and to encourage also flights coming into the country. So again, it's not unique and it's not significantly affecting the country, but for each and every crisis, we've developed crisis management to deal with it and try to enhance the outcome out of it.
Okay, good. We'll come back to some of those points, particularly on innovation.
Call it resilience, but if I could just add, Jonathan, resilience, because I mean, this is clearly what we've, but just putting it more in a regional context, I mean, clearly what Ghada mentioned, there has been an impact, but when we look at those destinations that are very dependent on the international markets and their segmentation is different, then the impact has been much more reduced in Egypt. Actually, with the leisure segment in particular, there was much less of an impact than when compared to the corporate. So the outlook still, and the data is suggesting that in comparison to comparable or competing destinations, Egypt to date, and the bookings on the book remains quite solid going forward for the year.
Okay, that's good. And Majid, what about capital flows?
Well, the thing is, I'll add on to what Dr. Ghada said and Hala. We had this talk. I had this talk last week with the Hala in Cairo about how resilient this market has been, and they'll actually go back even more than 3 or 4 decades back on when we had internal terror attacks in Egypt, and then we went through different events of Arab Springs and COVID and everything. It shows how this market, from the market side and the demand side, has been resilient and readapted and shifted quickly. And it showed also that whoever has invested in these times is the one making money right now. Their the hotel investors or hospitality investors are the one cashing out when in the good times. Even going back to Alain's figures in 2024 and 2025, when ADRs and occupancies and RevPARs, they doubled up. There were struggles around the corner everywhere around Egypt, whether on the eastern borders, southern borders, western borders, and the Mediterranean. And Egypt has still adapted and has captured this demand. So the question, is Egypt resilient for investment? Yes, it has shown this. The figures have shown this. And it showed also that each and every investor who has invested in hospitality in the past decades has made money more than anywhere else in the world, because the demand is there, the location is there. And apart from I won't go through the heritage, the coasts on the Red Sea and the Mediterranean, we have it all.
True.
There's been the question here on luxuries. Let's look at that, because I think one of the challenges has been for the Egyptian market is trying to push that rate, hasn't it, Hala? Which we've been talking about. It's starting to happen, it seems like, and that luxury offering. But there's an enormous amount going into this space now, particularly with these mega projects happening on the New Alamein coast, Ras Al Hekma, the Qatari Dears North Coast portfolio. And it's all a focus on luxury. But at the moment, we don't see that. Although, Ghada, I suspect the museum is going to help enormously with that. I mean, it's a world attraction. Everybody wants to come and see it, don't they? So you're getting that. I'm sure that inflow coming in from the US at the moment. But Hala, just going on to that luxury positioning, and then I'll go to Dr. Ghada because I know you're working in this space as well. What are you seeing at the moment?
I mean, clearly there's a shift to bringing in luxury to the market and upscaling the market. We've seen that being reflected in the last 5 years when we look at the numbers and the additions of quality supply in the luxury space. It's a work in progress. Naturally, the new developments are signing on luxury operators. The question is going to be very much around execution, because one thing is to position the destination, and it does have, I mean, Egypt does have the drivers to promote luxury destinations. It is going to be a function of execution. And this is really where the question is going to be, will they be able to deliver those projects and uplift the market to a luxury offering?
Is that the existing assets, so the conversion opportunities, or is this new developments?
In my opinion, there's a bit of both. I personally believe that there is a lot, and we've just looked at the numbers now with the unbranded supply, that there are a lot of existing opportunities that are undermanaged and could potentially be renovated, upgraded, and bring that luxury feel. I guess when we use the word luxury, it's not just about the offering itself and the physical facility, but it is the luxury experience. So what does that mean in terms of also the service and the facilities? So that's quite a lot to be done to really be able to position the destination at the luxury front. But there are real opportunities, and we've seen that, for example, with the rebranding of certain hotels. And these are historic hotels that have been rebranded. My understanding, Mandarin Oriental is coming in as well. So there are current assets that definitely are able to deliver both from the physical but as well as from the service. But with the new developments, most of the new supply so far has been luxury supply. And these will be supported more with the, the scale of these developments and the rate positioning and the type of ingredients.
Dr. Ghada, what is it you're doing to try to help with this in terms of education, working with the industry?
Well, what we've done a few years back is to reclassification of the hotels. So it's a work in progress, as Hala said. We started by redefining our classifications of hotels and really pushing those ones. And this was during, by the way, during Corona time, where hotels were in bad need of funds. But again, the government have put a lot of support, financial supports towards the renovations of hotels. So we've worked on this project massively with all hotels, reclassifying them and repositioning them towards, putting them in the right classification. Again, yes, there is a need for more luxurious products, and the market is going towards that, and we can see that this is what we need. Currently, Egypt is visited by the package holidays more than the luxury travelers. And this is the most predominant market that has been proved its financial returns to all investors. Yet, luxury products and luxury properties is welcome, and will be positioned really very well because Egypt has it all. we have the culture, we have the history, we have the people, we have the infrastructure and the support by the government as well. So all what we need is to drive in the foreign investments into this segment to really get it and get the right returns for it.
Okay, great. And Maged, you've got a luxury development beside the museum.
Yeah.
And what's your experience been like trying to market this opportunity?
Well, the thing is, of course, the location, the location is irreplaceable. And this, I'll talk about it later, but that's why I want to mention that luxury is all about the whole experience. Since you arrive to Cairo airport until you leave, It's not just about the product or the hotel. It's about what you see, what you hear, and what you experience. So, and I believe adding to what Dr. Ghada and Hala has mentioned, Egypt has been putting a lot towards the new luxury developments. The government has been putting a lot in infrastructure, upgrading airports, road networks, introducing high-speed trains and various transportation means. This all adds to the luxury of the experience. And in order to reach the 30 million visitors by 2030, I don't believe that all of them will seek luxury products, but they will seek a luxury experience or a premium experience. And that's why, in order to match the offerings in the market, whether in the pipeline, whether already built or in the pipeline, and touch base with the 30 million visitors, there is a lot of of opportunity in repositioning existing assets, whether the unbranded or the existing buildings, into hospitality products. The government has just issued a law which eases up the transfer of existing buildings into hospitality serviced apartments or hotels. So I believe that the government is putting a lot of help and aid to investors in order to pour into the hospitality ecosystem. When it comes to the plot in front of the gem itself is an anchor for traffic. It's one of a kind. You cannot see whatever the artifacts there anywhere else in the world. So it is a major driver. Getting investors in is part of the, I would say, the challenges of getting into a new country. And this is why Misr, Abu Dhabi, or Madif, if I may promote it, is a gateway for these international investors. We act as an institutional platform whereby we can match the investment KPIs required by the private sector and manage the government procedures.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for
Jonathan,
that.
can I perhaps just add to this point? I know the focus has been luxury, but it's an observation as well, because with all emerging destinations, although Egypt by no means is an emerging destination, it is on the map, it's been forever. But I think with the whole, looking at scaling up, adding inventory, I think what we really need to be considering is quality accommodation. Now, whether that is luxury or more geared towards your corporate market, quality accommodation is important. And I think this is where the efforts now, whether it is through the repurposing or through the introduction of new schemes, there is a massive domestic market that should receive attention in Egypt. And this is why Egypt is more resilient than other markets, naturally. And really, this demand segment, perhaps affordable accommodation is what they're looking for, affordable experiences. So how do we eventually balance out between luxury, because most of these developments or new developments are focusing on luxury, versus also bringing to this market differentiated, affordable experiences to your domestic market. And I think this is an important balance to strike there.
And then that's something, of course, you're working on all the time with your clients, convincing them that otherwise you're going to, and I can see one of the questions here is about that oversupply situation in that luxury segment, if they're all focused on that, particularly these mega projects. What Maggie mentioned about the infrastructure investment going into Egypt at the moment, and that's all part of Vision 2030, and that I don't think we got onto that at the beginning of this discussion, but Dr. Ghada, just give us a quick overview about 2030. What does it mean to investors and what's actually happening to achieve those numbers?
So we had this ambition of whether reaching 30 million travelers or 30 billion returns in US dollars. And it differs. I mean, I'm one of the having the opinion that it doesn't have to be 30 million because we will have to double our rooms, and which I don't think that we will be able to do that. And this is where the luxury term is coming in, that we need to drive the return more than the numbers, and so as not to be faced with over tourism in certain areas. So again, the whole government is, and the country is geared towards supporting tourism. So supporting tourism by enhancing the infrastructure of the roads, of the new cities, of the touristic attractions, of the airports facilities. And there are a lot of news now talking about the enhancements that will be taking place in Ghada Airport and Cairo Airport, Sphinx Airport that has been introduced, Alain Airport, and also the other new developments in the North Coast. All of these projects and all this ambition supported by a really strong will of the government and of the leadership, that tourism is a key element of the driving the economy of the country and also the culture. It enhances the local culture of the residents and the locals. So again, I believe with multiple projects that are taking place in the various areas. And by the way, the presentation did not mention also the development in the along the Nile for cultural tourism between Luxor and Aswan, and the initiatives that we are also trying to implement of enhancing the cultural tourism from Luxor north towards Cairo. And for that also there are other projects like the Holy Family Trail, where Nile Cruises development is a key issue that we are looking at, and also the improvement of the historical hotels in Luxor and Aswan. So all of these initiatives that we are all looking for its finalization in the coming couple of years will help either the luxury travel or even the standard travel. You know, when we travel to Europe, lots of people, they stay in 3 stars and 2 stars hotels, but they are classified correctly towards the service, cleanliness, and the standard operations in the hotel. It's not only the building, but also how the operations is being run, how the staff are trained to, you know, to give the right service in the property that they are working on. All of these initiatives that we're all working on to achieve.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Ghada. Hala, of these developments that are happening, and there's a lot of seriously big projects going on, which ones are actively moving forward? If you're an investor, what are you saying to your clients? You know, which ones should one be looking at the moment?
Jonathan, we're at a moment actually where we're trying to bridge between those very ambitious projects and the investability of those projects, very frankly, because these are extremely large-scale developments, naturally, that will be phased out over a period of time, but that require quite intensive infrastructure development ahead of the real estate development. Now, clearly, examples being Alain and you know what Amar has done and the whole Marasi. I visited 5 years ago. I visited again last week, and it has come together very well and nice. And this is further development. Projects that are further away, including Ras Al Hikma, Ras Al Room. I mean, the plans are there. It is a function of actually being able to deliver the infrastructure and ultimately going to market to attract the foreign investments. If we look at the current investments across the country, it is pretty much still focused around Cairo in particular, around all these new zones or new sub-markets within Cairo and Giza, with few others that are extending outside of the city.
Okay. And so you're seeing the infrastructure development taking place in these in some of the projects, but in other projects, of course, it's going to take a while for that infrastructure to catch up. Is that one of the challenges for the investors?
Definitely. definitely in those big developments. I mean, we're not at a stage, frankly, we're not at a stage where we're looking yet at attracting investors. I think behind those massive projects are the lead developer that will see through at least the infrastructure and putting it together. So I think it's very much the work at the moment is trying to quantify what is sustainable, what to bring to the market, what is the time frame, and eventually going to present those opportunities to foreign and also local investors.
Okay. On the finance side, Majid, you've been responsible for developing the escrow agreement in Egypt, as I understand it, in terms of those trust agreements and financing of projects. Just explain that a little bit, would you?
Yeah. Well, I'll first add on, we've talked a lot, I think Dr. Ghada and Hala talked a lot about the infrastructure, the government efforts towards infrastructure. I think there's another aspect when it comes to finance, which is the public policy infrastructure, whereby the government is actually easing up processes and procedures for investors to get clearer entitlements, faster approvals, more transparent regulations or development guidelines, just to make it much easier for investors, whether they're local or international, to get into the market. One of them is long-term financing tools and a banking system that can support these partnerships, some of them either through escrows or what's really being pushed in Egypt right now is having real estate funds, mainly towards hospitality, because this is a mean which is a regulated tool for investors to come into the market, manage and acquire projects under a regulated framework. So I would always say that the public policy, in parallel to the government's ambition and the government's efforts towards enhancing infrastructure, airports, and the GEM and all the big, large developments, is a major need and attraction to investors, whether they're local or international, actually, because there are a lot of local investors that are very interested to get into hospitality, but they need the platform or the touchdown that makes them more confident to put their investment over there.
Well, certainly an issue in the past has been the patriation of profits as well for international investors. So just give everybody an update of where we are with that at the moment.
Well, from my perspective, I see no issue with repatriation of profits, especially for foreign investors. The government has been, even through the devaluations that Egypt has faced since the Ukraine war, Egypt has been very transparent towards these mechanisms, has always offered and never stopped repatriation of these profits in order to increase the credibility of the Egyptian economy for the foreign investors. I haven't heard one case of Egypt not allowing the repatriation of profits for foreign investors.
Okay, that's good. And is there, Dr. Ghada, is there where do you see that further progress is needed in that sort of government ambition and investment reality?
Well, I think the alignment and the speed of the process is something that really needs to be worked at, and we've noticed that. And I think there is a lot of weight between the private sector now trying to work with the government entities to align between to have like one single window for all the approvals and for all the projects to speed up the operation and to speed up the approvals and licensing. This is one major issue that if it's cleared and solved, I think projects will move a lot faster. Also, the enhancements of the staff training. We are all the time in need of staff and being also approached by other properties in the GCC or even in Europe. So we are all in demand for trained staff. For that as well, the government and the private sector are doing a lot of efforts. I'm personally looking after a few projects in order to enhance the training platforms and really enhance staff training to be able to work with the current development that
Okay, yeah, really good points there. And Hala, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I mean, it is a common challenge, just talking about training. It's a common challenge. We're seeing it elsewhere, especially when you have such an aggressive development pipeline. What goes faster? Is it the development itself or developing the people? And again, these are real challenges that need to be addressed. Back to Mike's point on the regulatory framework, I think it's important, and this is what we're seeing now put in place for the foreign investors and to accelerate these developments, bringing in those sort of structures, including the escrow agreement, especially when many of those projects have a branded residence component, and looking at really all these GVs that could potentially take form in such developments. I think the regulatory framework there is extremely important to build the confidence that is required for foreign investment into Egypt.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, listen, I want to ask you, Hala, while I continue with you, where would you invest today in Egypt?
Interesting. I mean, I would definitely look at Cairo and Giza in particular because of the different segmentation, year-round destination, looking at the corporate segment, MICE, culture. More importantly, if we look back at the current 180,000 keys, surprisingly, only 20% of that is in the city itself, right? So there is real opportunity to develop or to repurpose some of the existing accommodation. So that would be my first to go. I think on the longer run, all these potential opportunities with resort destinations, they do offer attractive investment opportunities. A key consideration as we speak today is the seasonality of those markets. You're trading with a window of 3 to 4 months. So what happens really to the community living, and whether this will come together, it will, but it is more of a 10 to 15 years. So it's really whether you're in it for the short run or the long run. But definitely the capital offers very, very good opportunities at the moment.
And branded residences, is that beginning to come into the market?
It is quite popular, actually. I mean, very few destinations sell branded residence, including the UAE, but Egypt is another destination that have been very successful so far, also with branded residence. Many of those projects do have a branded residence component. And that's, again, speaking of the domestic market and secondary home ownership, this is a very good target market. I think the future will also mean that you will have perhaps European or elderly moving into Egypt as a long-term strategy. And I think a lot of the inventory or the branded residence is focused in this direction. I see Ghada nodding. I mean, I don't know if this is part of the plan, but that's my understanding of how the city is really expanding out to offer all these different community experiences.
Yeah, if I may comment on this, because branded residence was one of the targets that we've worked on to speed up, the availability of the scarcity in rooms, because it takes a few years to build hotels, but those were, empty properties that really needed such an investment to work on. So it was one of the initiatives that the Ministry of Tourism worked on to license the branded residences and really, have a look at it in terms of health and safety and security of the travelers. But also I would go back to the question of where would you invest and why Egypt, Cairo is being seen as the market for development, because only it had about 30,000 rooms, which is not really, it's not enough for the ambition that we needed for either for the opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum or even for the project that we worked on, transforming Cairo as a weekend destination. Usually, Cairo was visited over day from Sharm el-Sheikh or from Ghada, but now the initiative is to make it like a long weekend destination from GCC or even from Europe, because it's about 2 hours, half or 3 hours flight, which makes it, and with the affordability as well of the currency and the cost of living, it makes it a unique destination for weekends. So yes, again, where to invest? Cairo is, there is a lot of potential towards building properties in Cairo with all types. Doesn't have to be luxury, but even community and what do you call it? 2 stars, 3 stars around the pyramids area would be fantastic, and it will sell really fast with good return.
Okay, that's great. Majid, do you?
Well, in the Red Sea are other potentials.
Okay, Majid, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, of course. Dr. Ghada and Hala are tourism advocates. I'll be very pragmatic when it comes to where would I invest. And I would invest. I don't need. I usually the best investments might not be the largest projects. They're not necessarily the largest projects. Sometimes the overspill effect of these large projects on the nearby developments is the one that makes the money. But I would say that infrastructure, location, infrastructure, having an ease of a bankable transaction is where would I invest. Then I can invest across each and every segment that has been mentioned in the past, I would say, hour, whether it's hotels, 5-star or affordable hotels, serviced apartments, mixed-use hospitality projects. Each and every asset class of these has its own demand across, as Hala mentioned, whether it's domestic or, as Dr. Ghada has mentioned, from an international demand side. So there is a place for everyone, but I'll be very pragmatic when it comes to choosing the where would I invest.
Okay, that's great. I'm just looking at some of the questions coming through during this session. Let me just take you through them, and we can quickly, I think some of them we've already asked anyway, but ESG and tech for good is fast evolving area. How do we introduce new innovations to Egypt to ensure it remains at the forefront of innovation and guest satisfaction? Another question is, what do you think of the future of luxury hospitality? We've spoken about that. How do you assess the significant investments being made by several GCC countries in Egypt's north coast, particularly across large-scale mega projects? Do you believe the level of development could potentially lead to an oversupply? So I think we've addressed that a little bit. Is there a strategic policy towards the market segmentation of luxury, heritage, summer, retirement, tourism, etc.? Is there an effort to align marketing to those segment needs? Yeah.
Can I interrupt here and just come in on one of the comments that were made with regards to these large projects and what does it mean?
Yeah.
Because I earlier on said that these are projects that are designed for 10, 20, 30 years. But the way I look at it, what does it mean that, for instance, Qatari Diyar or Mudun or others are investing? It's really a credibility message, right? It does entice other investors to invest. So it's the smaller investors. So, these large scale projects, and we've seen that elsewhere. I mean, even if the entirety of the project doesn't complete according to plan, it's just the message that you send internally and externally. So from a positioning standpoint, I think this is great for the market.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It paves the road for other projects as well.
Correct.
Absolutely. Very good for the headlines, showing the stability of the country. but also it paves the road for smaller projects and off-the-hook ones. Eco lodges as well are welcome.
Yeah.
That's great. And it's great to have these visions because then the private sector also gets behind it as well. I think so I wanted to ask about innovation technology. I wanted to ask about I think we've spoken about segmentation, talent, any new project or program on to train, retrain good talent, both local and foreign. I think we've spoken about that. What are the biggest operational challenges operators are facing in Egypt? I think that's a good one. Let's address that one. But first, Dr. Ghada, on innovation and technology, that first question I asked, or one of the delegates asked, how are you ensuring, how's the government ensuring that it remains? I mean, I've seen a note here about the internet in some locations, we need good, strong internet, and that's not necessarily always the case. So what is the government doing to be at the forefront of innovation?
That is true also, but part of the hotel classification that the exercise that we've done was the internet compatibility in the hotels. And there are projects that have addressed this issue and to raise the internet capacity in the hotels and the whole resorts. And if the hotel is not qualified and is not putting the right investment for that, they would be downsized or they would be reduced in the classification. Also from the technology part, and I see the hospitality sector is really taking big part and leading part towards the technology, whether from the guest services to staff training to even the standard operating manuals that they are putting in the properties. There is a lot of room for improvement in this, as we see in the world how it's going, but also in Egypt, a lot of properties are taking their part in the technology investments.
Okay, great. I like this question here for you, Hala. What are the any new project? No, sorry, hold on. Here it is. Is there a preference for projects, awarding projects towards local consultants over foreign consultants? I would say foreign consultants that know the local market.
No, absolutely. I mean, definitely relying also on the local knowledge is important, but I guess where the international consultants, potentially it is the knowledge that we've acquired also working through similar destinations, right? And that's where I think what we carry, for example, when we advise is we've seen why projects failed and why projects succeeded. We've seen situations of oversupply. So I think this is the knowledge that international firms would bring, but definitely the local experience is extremely important. Understanding the different submarkets in Egypt, understanding the culture, understanding the booking windows, the habits. I mean, that definitely is extremely important as well.
Okay. So I see our time is up. We've hit our hour, so I've got a rapid fire question for each of you, one sentence each. I've got two questions. So what is the single biggest misconception international investors still have about Egypt? Dr. Ghada?
I think that market stability is a key issue that we need to really address and make them more confident of the returns of the market capabilities and the potential that we can see.
Okay. Hala?
I would say looking at it from the point of view of the different submarkets, really understanding how each submarkets behave differently. And, I think the misconception there, it's, when we say Egypt, rather than focusing really on the maturity of each submarket and the cycle.
Okay. Maggot?
Well, for me, the biggest misconception is that seeing Egypt as a high-risk market when it comes to whether visiting or even investing.
Okay. All right, good. And my other...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. And my father?
Go ahead, John.
Okay, my final question.
I was just saying that or showing that high risk has always been a misconception about Egypt. Even visiting Egypt, when we've seen we've seen many things, and we've passed through. So being categorized as high risk is a big misconception that needs to be changed.
Security, Megan.
Yeah.
Conception about security as well.
Exactly.
And how safety is carried over.
Yeah, if you come to Cairo, you can walk in the street 4 a.m. in the morning. The street is vibrant. No one will ever harass you.
So that's a profiling marketing thing that needs to take place as
Exactly.
well. So Megan, while I have you, here's the other question. Looking ahead 3 to 5 years, will investors entering Egypt today feel they moved early or wish they had waited? I know what you'll say on that, of course.
If they didn't move in now, I think they're going to be too late to move in. It's going to be too late for them to move in.
Okay, so they got to move in now. Hala?
They're already late, to be frank.
We're not going to discourage them, Maggot. Still going to give them 5 years, right? No, I think it's important to move in now. There's a lot to be made. It is in transition period, definitely. And really, the next phase for me is so much about execution. So as long as you can execute rather sooner rather than later, then you're probably leading the market.
Yes.
And Dr. Ghada?
Yeah, I think don't miss the opportunity. 2025 closed the year by 19 million plus, and we were expecting 2026 more than 22 million. The capacity that we have currently does not exceed 22 million, and we have, ambition to increase even more. So the question would be why I didn't move into this market when I had the capacity to move into it, and really rather come sooner than later.
So meaning that everybody has to attend the Future Hospitality Summit in Cairo
100%.
later this year. It's going to be exciting. 10th to 11th of November. Look, there we go. Register today. Get the 10% off. Sorry, it's my little promo going on here. But anyway,
Jonathan, to add to this one thing, it's just not about stepping in. It's stepping in with and choosing the right assets, the right partner, the right structure with this partner. This will add to the success of the story.
Yep. No, for sure. Well, listen, Dr. Ghada, thank you so much for joining us. Magad, Hala, what a pleasure. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of our delegates. We've held on to our delegates for the entire time, so I'm really pleased. But and thank you for my team for making this so smooth and work so well. So thank you very much.
Super.
Thank you, and see everyone
and have a good
FHS
weekend.
Egypt, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Tanya, do we leave? I just want to say thank you to you guys before I...
Are we still live, Marla?